When you are creating your desktop publishing document, it is important that you have things laid out in your page in an organized manner. So I've talked to you about alignment. One of the concepts we look at is rule of thirds, and that means you're going to break your page up into thirds left to right and thirds top to bottom, and you're going to use those third guidelines as to where you should put objects on your page. So if I want to put guidelines on my page, what I will do is go to my View menu and click on Guides Manager. So I have an option here to add horizontal guides and vertical guides. So I'm going to add 2 guides to each section to show you how the rule of thirds will come into play. So I'm going to add a guide here, and I'm going to add 2 of them. Now you can dictate where those guides actually show up. So I want to use percentage on my page. Right now they are by default 5.846 inches, so which is exactly halfway in the middle of our page. I'm going to switch to percent, and I want my first guide to be at 33% of my page. And I want my second guide to be at 66% of my page. So you'll notice I have 2 guides showing up horizontal, 1/3 of the way down my page and 2/3 of the way down my page. I'm going to do the same thing with my vertical guides. I'm going to add 2 guides, and they're set at percent, and I'll make them 33 and 66. So I can go ahead and close that. So now on my screen, I've got my page broken into 3 horizontal sections and 3 vertical sections, and this qualifies as the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds states that you should use these guidelines as positions to put key objects on your screen. It's visually pleasing and balanced. So if I go to add something right now, I'm going to place a picture. I'm going to choose a picture of an elephant, drag it onto my screen. I want to use these guides now as things to allow me to position and place my objects. So you'll notice now when I'm moving this picture around the screen, a bunch of different lines are showing up. I've got green lines and I've got red lines. And those are allowing me to align my object with different things on my screen. So right now it's going to align with the edge of my margin. You'll see a green line appearing there vertically. It will allow me to align with the top of my page horizontally. I can align with my guides going across either side to side or up and down. And by default, your center guidelines are always going to show up. Horizontal in red and green in vertical. Now, if I want to line an object up with another object, the same concepts apply. So I'm going to place a second picture on my page. I'll drag it out. And even though this picture is a bit larger and it doesn't have the same ratio in size, width to height, it doesn't matter. I still move it around and you'll see these guidelines starting to appear. So there we have the right edge of the top image lining up with the left edge of the bottom image. As I move across, you will see there's my middle of the page. There I have my alignment. Center of the bottom image is lining up with the right side of the top image, and that will continue all the way across. There's page center, there's side by side, there is images lined up with their center, and that continues all the way across both horizontally and vertically. Now you have total control over how many of these snap features you want to use. If I come up here to my magnet, that's my snapping icon, and I pull down from this window, you'll see a lot of different options that allow you to turn on more or less of these snapping features. So you can explore them to see what works for you. And remember, one of my main requirements in your design is that everything needs to align with something else. Whether it is another image, whether it is a text box, whether it is snapping to your rules of thirds, there should be alignment considerations placed for everything in your document. Now, I'm doing this example on the main page. You'll notice nothing that I move is snapping to any of the features on my master page. That's because your master page is in the background and nothing is really connected to it. If I take this image and go to my master, and I paste it onto my master page, you'll then notice that the alignment starts to kick in. And I have alignment lines showing up when I align with the features on my master page, including my page numbers. Okay, so there we have the ability to align objects with other objects based on your snap settings. And if you go to your guide manager, you can add and remove guides on your pages accordingly. Now again, I put those guides on page 1, so they are only on page 1. If I want them to be on all of my pages, I would apply them to my master. You can add your guides accordingly, just like we did before. So because I just added 2 guides now to my master page, you're going to see when I go to other pages, you'll see my guides appear there as a dotted line. So there we have guidelines. We have our snap tool. So with those 2 features, you should be able to quite quickly make sure everything is aligned. Now I'm going to just do one more little thing before we end here, and that is I'm going to go to my guide manager and turn on a column to show you that we also get these align features working with your columns. So you'll see now my elephant snapping to the edge of my column on the left, edge of my column on the right. And when you add text boxes, it's a good idea to snap the edge of your text frame to your columns. Again, so when I start to type text, you'll see that that falls directly into the format of the columns because my guide has snapped it to that column guide. Okay, so let's take advantage of that feature. I want to clearly see alignment considerations taken into account when you create your document.